So in part one of this miniseries, I talked about Not a Vampire and how they took a stance on the Rick Murray situation and gave some very amazing points. And basically, that was the creative muse I needed to try to make my own videos look better. Because if you basically search for 2018 videos, basically I become more angry and all that. But I've calmed down. I've talked about it and I've analyzed it to the hilt. And number two is not a um, not an Eric, but unusually Eric, if that. So basically, unusually Eric did it did his Rick Murray take basically through watch-alongs and all that of some clips of the episodes that mattered, and basically he made some opinions. But now let's take a look at someone who doesn't do videos based on what they think happened, and also doesn't do watch along of the Rick Murray situation. They did a podcast. That's right. They're an active podcast called The Social Disease with Jasper and Bridget. And basically, they take a look at the plot lines and basically try to make sense of everything. They did two episodes about the time stand still thing, both almost both almost 2 hours long, but basically, they put up a lot of effort and all that. And it's amazing. They talked about it for all this straight, although they probably had breaks in between and all that. But anyway, I digress. This is all about the Social Disease podcast. Ah, yes, the Social Disease podcast with Jasper and Bridget. Basically, they tried to make their name known through the Degrassi Reddit, and basically says that they do these episodes and all that. So, for me, trying to get a collab with somebody, as I failed miserably the past two times, I decided to join their first live stream on YouTube. And basically, I come up with some bright ideas. They kind of like me, and they even said, "Wait a minute, Cutter Historical. That's my YouTube name. Isn't that Cutter Gaki on the Degrassi Reddit?" Yeah, I said, "Yeah." Says, and I said I didn't change my name because my first Reddit I was in was Gaki no Sugai Rende, the Japanese show, and basically I never changed it. They said, "Oh, that's fair." So anyway, yeah. So anyway, I had fun doing the live stream and talking about things with them. Well, I didn't actually talk to them. I just typed my stuff. But basically, they look good, and I said I can't wait for season 4 when they talk about the Rick Murray situation, and I joined them at a great time too. They were about to talk about season 4. So basically, I was ready, steady, go, and all that with everything. So what happened is that basically I waited patiently until late March, early April, when they finally released the podcast episodes. I look at them and I'm like, wow, they've talked for almost 2 hours about this stuff. And they say I talk about things long winded. So, anyway, the Social Disease did some stuff. They did it more formatted. Well, it's a podcast, but they don't really have video thing. But they did it more like a run through stuff. And when I looked at the Spotify page, they basically said that they had talked about topics like they did timestamps and all that. I wish I did timestamps, but basically I forget my stuff. So anyway, in part one, in the first podcast episode, they explained they had done 8 different things: a summary of everything leading up to the shooting, Emma's crusade, talking about Emma's crusade against Rick, Rick's quest for forgiveness, Toby's friendship with Rick, Spinner's downfall, Alex and Radich and how they were involved in this, Rick's breaking point, some what ifs, and final thoughts prior to the aftermath. So I had to painstakingly listen to it. I didn't download it, but I painstakingly listened to it for a couple days and basically jotted down crib notes and all that. It wasn't easy to do that because your mind wanders sometimes. Anyway, so as I did with the first 2 parts, I basically will be talking about what they were trying to get at before my Taco Bell take. So here we go. So basically, they talked about Emma being petty and all that with with Chris being with Liberty. It teams up Emma and Paige in such a source Alex, they found out that Alex knew about domestic violence firsthand, and basically, yeah, they talked about everything up to Time Stands Still Part 1. On the topic of Emma's crusade, they said that Emma was being judgmental too much in the first 3 or 4 seasons. She went with Paige. She tried to make Manny and Liberty jealous of them. Inconsistent about that episode. Very inconsistent. Needed someone to talk to because obviously without Manny and Liberty, always with a cause throughout the first few seasons, especially. When they talked about Rick's quest for forgiveness, they made the points of he only apologized once. He wanted to prove he changed. Lack of show and tell. That's my point of view on it. He tried to buy his forgiveness, and he was delusional in a sense. On the topic of Toby's friendship with Rick, they said that there was a massive distance from JT. They both probably were trying to keep their distance from each other. They talked about the kissing bet. They questioned what's the bet aimed at for Emma when Rick kissed Darcy. And basically, Toby was being a good friend, but attacked by Jay. Spinner's downfall, he said that there's not much connection to season 3 with how Spinner is with the Terry situation. They said that he was wearing the pants in the relationship season 4 with Paige before he left for Manny. He was just a bully. He deteriorated his friendship with Jimmy after stealing his MP3 and all that. And basically, they questioned why did he listen to Jay and basically being a follower. Alex and Radich said that basically Alex saw everything firsthand, wasn't too happy about it. She envisioned Rick as every abuser who wronged her mom. She pulled the rope for the painted feathers, obviously. No punishment because of the bathroom incident. That's probably why she didn't get punished. And basically Radich messed up and all that. They didn't go too much into Radich's stuff and all that. Unlike me. But anyway. They talked about Rick's breaking point. And they said that basically Rick had a warped perception of reality. He was creepy to Emma. He never really changed at the end of the day. He didn't believe in Radich getting the answers and all that. And basically the dynamic with Paige and Rick, they talked about that. And the what ifs is, they said, Sean is a hero. Rick had to die. It was hard to imagine what if he was alive. No Marco, Liberty, and Manny in it. It's like, what if they were involved in it somehow? And basically, are we made to sympathize with Rick and all that? So that was part 1. So then I had to listen to the second one. And they basically split up into like four major parts. They basically talked about Sean and, after leaving the show and all that, his role. They talked about Toby. They talked about the Jimmy and Spinner friendship. And they talked about Emma. Basically, the catalyst for the name, the social disease. So this is what they said and all that. And again, I will do my take on it afterwards. But anyway, they said Sean had to be dealing with the media about being a hero. Wasn't happy with his folks deserted him. He was saved by Tyler. He broke down when he thought that he killed Rick. He stays in Wasaga Beach. Ellie becoming a concerned girlfriend. People tried to make him admit guilt. Parents made him move to Toronto. There was they talked about culmination of things. Basically, I didn't pick up on that, so I can't really talk about them. Was it a suicide attempt when Sean had the jet ski accident? And basically, was Sean's thing to set up Emma and Jay? When they talked about Toby, they said that JT blaming Toby for not knowing the science, that he was a creep and all that. Manny chewed out JT, rightfully so. They talk about things in Back in Black and all that. When JT comes to the memorial, to the funeral, to the visitation, PTSD not dealt with, and he fell off the map twice. Jimmy and Spinner, they talked about how Jimmy was at the hospital and wanted to leave, but his parents said no. Spinner wanted to help Jimmy and all that. They talked about Jimmy's dialogue, the talk in the gym and all that. Spinner was mad for the school for expelling him, probably thinking that, they were overreacting. They should have done more with Jimmy's aftermath after he was in the wheelchair. Um, Jimmy was probably used for Spinner's growth. Jimmy's dad wasn't comfortable with Jimmy's condition and all that. You could see that. Basically, they were talking about how Jimmy and Spinner should have had twin arcs with each other. Jimmy felt that since he bullied Rick, he may have been punished for it. That's probably his thinking. And they talked about why did Spinner have to tell Jimmy, and there was an answer to that. Jimmy had a lack of energy to hate, just to ignore. Basically, Spinner had to do it to get off the thing to get off his chest. Basically, trying to ask for forgiveness, similar to Rick's progress and all that. Didn't understand the gravity of the situation, and basically, yeah. And from Emma, basically said that she needed to distance herself. She was distancing herself. She rejected Jay the first time, but didn't call out Jay for his creepiness towards her, which she normally would. Perino being a dick, thinking Emma was with Jay to connect to Sean. Why was Emma not given the help? They questioned why no one was helping, basically. Emma's control issues. They talked about the fact you can't spread gonorrhea through transmission and all that. And basically, people were probably panicking over nothing. Tricking the parents to throw out the scent, weaponizing her trauma. She lost her self-image, in a sense. Jay thought she had virtue, and then basically Emma snapped out of her issues. Did they give her an STI as punishment for stuff, and compared Emma to Maya? So that's basically what they were talking about. I made it through those 2 podcasts, and basically, at times I'm like, did I write down everything I wanted to write down? Yes, but looking at my notebook and all that, and basically the format I followed, good thing I used only 2 pages of notes and not everything else. But anyway, my take is coming up next. So there's a lot to take with this, and basically my take on it. Basically, my original take is that they did a good job. I know they didn't do a video on it, and they, unlike Not a Vampire and Eric, and basically, it's hard to do like a playlist on their things, but basically, down in the description, I'll talk about like their take on it, and I'll give you the links to the Spotify stuff. But the fact of the matter is, it's not easy being green, if you will. And they did pretty good for themselves. I give them a lot of credit. I mean, talking about it for a long time and all that. Yeah, and they say I overtalk. I overanalyze. But they did pretty good. They actually talked about stuff that I didn't think of, and basically it blew my freaking mind. So anyway, let's go to part 1 first. The summary of everything about Emma being petty and all that. And basically, I'm like, yeah, Emma stupidly was being petty about, her breakup with Chris and all that. Basically, she didn't want Chris to be with Liberty because obviously Emma was like, if he couldn't make it work with me, I don't want him to make it out with Liberty, basically, because it makes me look bad. And it's like, that's the first time Emma has basically been petty over the fact with her ex-boyfriends and all that. Although she was kind of angry that Sean moved on in season 3 before her and basically wanted Sean to pay the price. She was lucky she still had Chris. I thought she would lost Chris because of her pettiness. In season 3, much less. Basically, it teams up Emma and Paige, yeah, because we rarely see that and all that. Alex knowing everything firsthand. I didn't really get much vibe, like, in their first part, when summary of everything, compared to the stuff I do, but anyway. So, they talk about Emma judging too much and always with a cause. I totally agree. The fact of the matter with Emma is that basically, she was very annoying in the first 3 seasons and all that. And the fact of the matter for Emma is that, that was her character. That was her character flaw. Kind of like what Vamp said. It was her flaw. Because, her causes and all that. She had a few causes. Season 1, her major cause was the rainforest thing in the series pilot. Well, in the pilot. So basically, yeah, because her thing about the rainforest, it got her to Jordan, who ended up being a middle-aged man. She also was thinking about the squeegee kids and all that, saying that, the news is so hypocritical. But she gets shot down by Sean's brother, who said that basically they do the student announcements. They pay a lot of money, and that helps Sean get an education and all that. Yeah, Emma loves that. So, yeah, when you look at it, it's like Emma is being a little bit of a nuisance and such. Season 2, she had genetically modified foods cause, you know, that went horribly wrong for her. She thought she would fix the situation, but Raj basically told her that we don't have enough money in the budget for everything, for non-GMO foods. Emma takes it angrily, saying that Raj refused to listen to her, but, teenagers don't know about budgets and all that. She hands out flyers, she gets them taken away. She's ready to wave the white flag. Everyone forgets about that. But then they do that stupid cafeteria commercial, trigger, and Emma basically gets triggered. She starts a food fight accidentally. Raj basically pins everything on her and her flyers, but she was just an innocent girl, and basically he wanted her out of the school. She takes another cause, freedom of speech. She doesn't care about the GMO foods thing. Basically, people are not going to agree with her, and she takes responsibility. She basically tells the school about Raj, about to punish her for what she did and all that, for being a bit of a tyrant. And basically, Raj is upset at her. And, she took a cause with abortion because, Manny was having a kid and think about abortion. She said, I want to be a great mom one day, but it's not that time. And I can't handle the pressure. And Emma says that you can't abort the kid and all that. Basically, Emma was being petty and all that. However, Emma kind of turned around in a sense and defended Manny in front of Craig, saying that, yes, Craig, I know that abortion is wrong, but it's her body and her choice. If she wasn't my best friend, I'd be pissed. But it's like, I thought Emma and Manny broke up as friends because Manny didn't like how Emma was judging her for her promiscuity, or whatever, however you pronounce it. I've had times pronouncing things. So basically, yeah. And then also the abortion thing about the fact she didn't want her mom aborting a kid, especially after she said, I don't want a second mistake. And Emma gets triggered. And, she took a cause up to deal with her, to try to find her birth father because she knows Snake is not her real father. She wants to know about her real father, especially with welcoming a new sibling in the world. Spike is some little help or no help at all. And basically, it's up to Snake to talk to Emma and basically tell her everything. It's like, Snake had to be the good guy. Why was Spike the bad one? And Emma basically said that she doesn't make contact with her father. When they talked about going with Paige and trying to make Manny and Liberty jealous, so basically she was drawn into the cause to get Rick out, mostly because Raj yelled at her. And basically, Paige says that we need your help, Emma. No one's listening to her command. And basically, Emma says we'll team up. And then she finds Manny and Liberty in the bathroom together and basically says that I'm going to have a frap with Paige. Good luck with your hot tubs and all that. Basically, she figured that she was trying to make Manny and Liberty jealous because basically saying that you cut me out of your friend group. Well, I have better friends and I don't need you guys. Basically, it might have been a front for, being dumped by Liberty and Manny. That she basically is trying to make them jealous. I know they didn't really say it, but I do. Anyway, inconsistency. Emma needed someone to talk to. Yeah, Emma needed someone in her group. Needed a friend because, Manny and Liberty left her and basically she didn't really have much left. And, Emma's crusade would soon turn against her basically, but people were beating up Rick for things. And I think they said when they were inconsistent is that Emma basically, is all about let's beat up on Rick, and then basically she turns tail and says, no, 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 no. This has gone on long enough. We've got to protect Rick. And everyone, betrays her and all that. So, yeah, that's the thing with Emma. It's like, I gotta feel that, they basically said that Emma should have stayed with the cause, or why did she turn around? They even said, I think in part the second podcast episode, they basically said that, Emma probably needed control and all that, and needed to control things because she was just like a follower and all that. And anyway, they did a good job about Rick's quest for forgiveness. That's how I put it. Basically, he only apologized once. We only heard him once when he apologized for hurting Terry when he almost shot Paige. He wanted to prove that he changed, yeah. And a lack of show and tell. That's basically my thing. But also, like they talk in length about the fact that Rick was basically trying to force people to forgive him. That basically he wasn't showing that he's changed. Basically, he had no proof and all that. Show and tell is basically when you show something and tell about it. Like Rick's sessions and all that, he never invited them to join his sessions to basically say that, I've changed my tone and all that. I agree with them. Basically, they were angry that Rick just wanted forgiveness and didn't care about how he would have gotten forgiveness. He basically was trying to force it on them or jam it down their throats, if you will. Like he tried to buy his forgiveness and all that. I agree with that point because, like, he shows up with Emma for a $500 check and all that, and basically trying to get the problem to go away, and maybe he won't get bullied. But I think even if Emma accepted the check, things would have happened because Emma was not against Rick. So anyway, Emma basically, yeah. But my theory on that is because maybe he buys his forgiveness. Maybe he's just trying to give the money to Emma, or in a sense, how I see it, is that basically Rick is thinking that Emma is being brainwashed by Paige and all that. Yeah, said that Rick was delusional. Makes sense. Yeah, his warped perception of reality, basically about forgiveness and all that. He was creepy to Emma. Yeah, I mean, like, Emma protected him just because it was the right thing to do, although the school thought it wasn't. And basically, all she did was just protect him from a beating. And he basically figures that, Emma likes him. And so basically, he returns the favor. Basically, holding her hand, whispering, "This is for you." And, trying to prove to her that, he's perfect for her. And that Emma is a nice person. But, of course, that was troublesome. And by the time he died in Time Stand Still Part 2, he never changed. We really didn't see him change much. Like, he was being bullied and didn't retaliate. That's a good point. But then he retaliated, and basically that destroyed all goodwill and all that. And Rick, I think, in his mind, didn't believe that Raj was going to help him out. Because in Time Stand Still Part 2, when Toby says that, Raj is going Nova about finding out who did this, and Rick says, "Oh, yeah, and give him detention." Like, he doesn't believe Raj is making a move. But Raj was making a 180 and all that. And, the Paige-Ricky dynamic is like, why Paige and all that? I already made a video about why Paige might be Rick's biggest problem and all that, and not his dad and all that. Okay, Toby's friendship with Rick. Basically, Toby and JT were not together. I mean, most of season 3, they weren't together. They had the penis pump thing, which Toby was involved with JT, but basically, I guess JT screwed up with the penis pump and basically blamed Toby. And Toby basically was left friendless to be with Rick. Basically, Toby was easy pickings for Rick. I mean, they were part of the Wacky Brain team. They were doing assignments together. They were both geeks. They both wanted role-playing dice. They both had certain girls they wanted to kiss. Even Hatzalakos. But that was before Hatzalakos was principal. The kissing butt, things that they do, nice high school things. I know Vamp said that, but basically they were talking about that too. And they would talk about the bet aiming for Emma, because I think in a way I misinterpreted, but basically maybe it was that they both wanted to kiss Emma and they both wanted to get some feels for Emma. But basically the fact that Rick, after kissing Darcy, maybe it was implied that now he had a chance to go after Emma and basically had confidence in Emma. Toby was being a good friend, attacked by Jay. Yeah, I guess by association. And Toby gets hurt in the hallway when they want to destroy Rick for spray painting their cars. Basically, they give him a busted lip and all that. And basically, that's when Rick tells Jimmy that everything is terrible and all that. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, Toby's probably going to get the more pain to him because now that they know that he's Rick's friend. So anyway, that's there. And then Spinner's downfall, basically not much connection to season 3. I mean, I tend to disagree because Spinner was there on the road trip with Paige, Jimmy, Hazel, with Rick and Terry there. And, you know, the end result of Rick putting Terry in a coma and having blood on his hands, literally. Like, yeah, they said that Spinner, I think they did talk in passing about Spinner being angry at the fact that he and Paige didn't do enough and they didn't get Terry to stay back and not go after Rick, and that's when the thing happened. Basically, Spinner was basically wearing the pants in season 4 of the relationship with Paige because, you know, Paige crashed Spinner's car into Dean's car after losing her rape trial and all that. Yeah. That's just pathetic in a sense. Spinner was just a bully. Like, Spinner's persona was just being a bully and all that. You know, he deteriorated his friendship with Jimmy with the MP3 and it all started downfall from there. Yeah, I say so too. Yeah, and basically, you know, they talked about why did he have to listen to Jay? Like he was a follower. Yeah, Spinner seemed to be a follower and all that. You know, Spinner didn't really have much left. He was with Manny and all that. But, you know, that's what happened. And basically, you know, why did he listen to Jay? It's like, you know, okay, the bathroom one during Whack Your Brain and all that. Basically, you know, they both planned to destroy, to get Rick to listen to their bullshit and basically not have any inkling. But anyway, I mean, that was planned. Spinner knew what he was doing. But in the bathroom, like basically, you know, Jay was trying to get Spinner to set something up and Spinner fell for Jay's trick. You know, Spinner felt guilt and he should not have told Jimmy about the thing, about his plan. He should not have bragged. Like, that's the problem. But yeah, like Spinner being a follower, it's like, yikes, why Spinner? To talk about Alex seeing domestic violence firsthand, yep. I mean, you know, should have had a little more sympathy towards Alex, but you know, she had that. And basically she used that to envision Rick as every guy who she would like to beat up for what they did to her mom. And all that. I did a video, an unpopular opinion about that, about Alex and her role and all that. But yeah, it seemed that way. And basically, you know, she wanted some closure over the people who wronged her mom. Nothing wrong with that. Basically, Alex was the one who pulled the rope, obviously, because Spinner and Jay were in the audience. They talked about why Alex got no punishment, but mostly it was because, you know, the bathroom thing, and Jay and Spinner both figured that basically the bathroom was the catalyst and that Alex needed to stay out of it. And basically, they talked about the fact that Alex got lucky and got into the friend group to replace Spinner and Jay. And also, you know, they talked about Raj. They didn't talk about Raj as much as I would like to talk about them. I mean, initially, Eric, by comparison, talked about Raj in a better way, in a sense. And, you know, Famp did a video. Yeah, Famp did a video about, and I didn't mention this in their video, in the first part, that basically did a video about did Raj mess up and all that, and basically said that, you know, it's a yes and a no. For me, yeah. It's like he should have done more and all that, but, you know, his hands were probably tied. I mean, the lack of them talking about Raj's downfall, especially in the aftermath after Time Stands Still Part 2, was shocking to me. I was not too pleased with that, and the lack of talking about Ellie, in a sense, with her aftermath and all that. Like, you know, it just rubbed me the wrong way. That's one of the problems with this one, is it rubbed me the wrong way. Like, they didn't really talk about Raj's role, and Raj had a bigger role to play. I know that this show is meant to be for the kids more than the adults, but, like, honestly, they should have talked about the administration's mistakes and all that. The others did. Anyway, you know, they both agree Sean's a hero and for what he did. They also said, you know, Rick had to die because it was hard to imagine if Rick was living how the show would go on from there. I think they were wondering what if Rick was alive, what could happen. They didn't really talk about it. Like I know I did a fanfic about that, and I should really share it, but maybe I missed a few points. But anyway, yeah, that's the point. Oh yeah, but the fanfic I put myself into the Degrassi thing as a character, but that's kind of irrelevant. Um, they basically said, "What? How would Marco, Liberty, and Manny have jumped into Time Stand Still? The situation." Well, they didn't really, not in that episode, but later on, basically they talked about how they could be all right. Yeah, it's like Marco had no role. Like he was the student council president, and like he didn't do anything. It seemed. Manny and Liberty, I think, were making Emma persona non grata, but I think Manny even would have had the galls to basically talk to Emma even if Liberty didn't want to. So anyway, that was part one, and then episode number two, they talked about a lot of things. They talked about how Sean was dealing with the media and not happy with his folks and all that. Yeah, I mean, they sent him to Toronto, but with good intentions. I mean, after all, he deafened Tyler and all that. And they were afraid that he was going to jail. He was down that dark path. It's like, Sean never connected with them. But Sean was upset that his parents did that. And, his brother wasn't really the best person around. Sean ended up being on student welfare because, Tracker got a job in Alberta, wanted Sean to move to Alberta. But Sean says, I would have did my high school diploma. Wah, wah, wah. He didn't. He breaks down when he thinks he's killed Rick and all that. And it leads to one of their points is about guilting him and all that. When I watched Back in Black, the episode when Sean leaves, they actually, Sauve says that, a boy died. Don't you feel any guilt and all that? It's normal to be guilty. And it's like, what the hell? Are they basically trying to get Sean to admit guilt or something? It just ticks me off in a sense. I mean, Sauve is a decent character when she has to be, but I mean, you know, maybe Snake was trying to get Sean to admit his guilt about what happened and all that. They both probably think that he's a hero and he killed Rick on purpose. No, he was just in the right place, right time, and he was trying to protect Emma. It was weird and all that. They talked about when they talked about it. They said people trying to admit guilt and all that. It's like, honestly, they wanted Sean to express his feelings, but Sean was not really good at that. He stays in Wasaga to deal with his PTSD. At least they dealt with that PTSD thing in a better load than Toby. But anyway, Ellie was the concerned girlfriend who basically just wanted Sean to open up. And then, Ellie fell flat. I mean, she stayed in that apartment even though Sean left. But her mom convinced her to move back home, saying that she's changed and she knows that without Ellie, she's terrible. A lot of things culminated with Sean. His behavior issues in seasons 1 through 4, like being angry and all that. He had a fight with Jimmy and he accidentally pushed Emma. He joined Jay in his gang because he wanted to be somebody that he thought he was, but Emma was not too pleased with that. And they talked about Sean falling off the jet ski. Was that a suicide attempt? And they said it's kind of questionable in a sense. But to me, it's like it's possible. I mean, when you look at the scene frame by frame once he falls off this jet ski, because maybe he it looks like he jumps and all that. There's a still frame, a couple still frames that I think about that, and basically maybe because I think they said that people go through extreme emotional things, and basically they don't want to talk about it, so they decide to kill themselves so that nobody knows about how they really feel. And then they said about, setting up Emma and Jay with Sean leaving. Because they thought that they're going to push Jay into the season more so than Sean. Like, I mean, honest to goodness. That just isn't kosher. Like, did they give it to Sean to deal with Emma and Jay? They talked about there's a possibility. But I'm like, why would they pair up Emma and Jay in season 4? It just doesn't make sense. The writers sucked. And then they talked about Toby, basically that the fact that JT was not happy with Toby being Rick's friend, especially in Back in Black. And basically says that, why didn't you see the signs? You're just an idiot. All that. And yeah, JT was upset. I mean, I'm actually surprised that JT blew off at Toby, but Toby wanted to talk to somebody and needed to talk to JT because JT is his closest confidant in season one. But no, JT seemed to be distant and all that. I don't know why. I just don't. But then again, they talked about how Manny chewed out JT for abandoning Toby and all that. Basically saying that if he wasn't hanging out around Daniel or Liberty's brother, maybe as an attempt to get to Liberty, who knows? Then Toby probably would not have thought about going near Rick and all that. And basically, Manny gets to him by saying, "You can't be the bigger man." And JT admits his guilt and basically tells Toby that it doesn't matter how I feel, this should never have happened in the first place. At least JT was willing to make things right with Toby. And they talked about how the PTSD was not dealt with and all that. And I agree full heartedly. And they even mentioned that Toby fell off the map after season 4 and then again in season 6, which is true. I mean, Toby, what did he do in season 5? Not much. He was basically JT's right hand man. And then when JT died, I mean, maybe Toby felt bad about the fact that his last words to JT is that basically, that might be the last sandwich you eat or something like that, and you better talk to Liberty. And then JT says, "You're right, Tobes. What's the worst that can happen?" And then JT dies. Toby gets into things with Emma, and then basically after season 6, he's just off the map. And then they got to the Jimmy and Spinner dynamic. Basically, Jimmy being at the hospital wanting to leave, but his parents said that they can't have him at the hospital home because they haven't set up the house yet. And then Jimmy breaks out with Marco and Craig to see a concert. He just wants to be normal. His dad is upset, but basically Jimmy says stuff and basically gets at his dad. And his dad says, "Well, we can get you a nurse. It's no big deal." As you know how rich the parents are. And it raises the point about Jimmy's dad not being comfortable with Jimmy's condition. That's true. I got that feeling from Famp, but basically they said about that Jimmy's dad basically, I think, wasn't really comfortable with Jimmy's life being life changing. And basically, they should have done more with Jimmy's aftermath, like how hard it was to use the wheelchair, like more behind the scenes stuff, but how he has to deal with his life being in a wheelchair. I totally agree with this because it just doesn't make sense. The writers just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And then, Jimmy was probably used for Spinner's growth more so than Jimmy's growth. Basically, trying to get to, Jimmy was used as part of Spinner's redemption arc more so than Jimmy for any arc Jimmy did. And Jimmy had issues in the Spinner helped him out in Eye of the Tiger, getting him the MVP award, and basically Jimmy is happy. A little uncomfortable, but yeah. So basically, Jimmy does a monologue, basically saying that I bullied Rick as hard as you guys, and I feel that this was probably punishment for bullying Rick when I should never have bullied him. My basketball career, my life is gone. It's like pieces of me. I just wish Rick had better aim. And it's like, what the fuck, man? Jimmy's dialogue was just creepy. And I totally agree. Spinner basically confesses and all that. And Social Deceased talked about, did Spinner need to profess his guilt? And they basically said, well, I was eating up at him. And basically Spinner felt that, he helped Jimmy and he might as well help Jimmy by basically saying those magic words and alleviating the guilt and getting the things off his chest. But basically the school just made him an outcast. They said that Manny broke up with Spinner because of this. But no, Manny broke up with Spinner Bark at the Moon, if memory serves me right. Because I know for a fact that, Manny tells Spinner that she's not right for him because, she's the bad person in this relationship, not Spinner. But yeah, they probably said that, Spinner was trying to get to Manny. I think Spinner wanted to get back with Manny, but they broke up and all that. And Spinner was ostracized. All that. You know, they basically said that, Spinner was trying to do things right. And Jimmy, of course, questioned why Spinner had to tell because he would have ate up at him and all that. Spinner was trying, but Spinner knew he had to rack his guilt and all that. And basically, they talked about how Spinner was upset that the school was mad at the school expelled him for something like a paint and feathers thing. He figured he'd just get just a massive suspension, but basically he's told by Hatzlack, zero tolerance, and your actions have put a boy in a grave and a boy in a wheelchair because of these incidents. And she said she had no choice but to take zero tolerance and all that. And Spinner trying to get everyone to forgive him in Eye of the Tiger reminded Jasper and Bridget that it's like Rick. It's basically he wants people to forgive him, and it's like he's not showing any signs of trying to improve himself because they're basically like, he may feel this way, but basically it's like he hasn't shown that he's willing. He should be forgiven all that. He's pushing forgiveness like Rick did. And Spinner didn't understand the gravity of the problems. He felt that basically the school was just going to give him a massive suspension and detentions, and he'll learn from it. But no, the zero tolerance. But I would have probably thought that the zero tolerance was probably a good thing for Spinner because I don't think Spinner would have wanted to be at Degrassi with everyone just not forgiving him and all that. He would probably go nuts. That's why he went back to the school and says, "Can I take some courses and all that?" And it says you can only do summer school. And he was upset that the school wasn't helping him, so he basically wants to burn the school with yearbooks and all that. But Jay stops him, saying that, you know, this is not how you want your friends back. You've got to do a better job. And it's like Jay was right the whole time. Like, I still hate Jay so much. They didn't really talk about Jay's aftermath as much. Social Juices did. So yeah. Then we get to Emma. Basically, distancing herself, rejected Jay the first time. That's right. In Secret Part 1, he makes a pass at her and grabs her butt and all that. And Emma, and they said Emma was probably like warped because like she would have basically called Jay out and basically yelled at him in her old face, but basically she was just withdrawn from stuff. Basically, they talked about how Perino basically said the grace period for the shooting is over, Emma, and all that. Like, what a dick. And they talked about how Perino probably was racist towards Danny and all that. He wasn't completely racist towards Danny. He just didn't like the Danny and Derek dynamic. And basically, he was told to take a few weeks off from Snake. Should have been Hatzalako's. I know she was still principal at that time. I think no, or was it? It was season 8, and I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Perino just pissed me off. Like, a lot of people say he was kind of a dick, but he was a respectful dick. Anyway, they talked about how Emma was with Jade to connect to Sean. I agree with that point. They questioned why Emma was not getting the help she needed, or why that. It's a two-way street. It's kind of like with Rick. Like Rick could have went to his parents for help with being bullied and all that, and basically got some answers and all that. But he didn't want to do the snitches get stitches philosophy. So anyway, yeah, they were like Spike and Snake are walking around eggshells, and they even say that in Secret Part 2 says that we will no longer walk on eggshells around you. Like, honestly, why did they? But that's the problem. Is the perception of the old Emma is that Emma always bounces back, and Emma basically doesn't let adults get in her way. So basically, she fixes herself. That's the problem with Emma. Like, she fixes herself all the time. And basically, the school knew that too. They knew about Emma's personality and all that. And they figured Emma always bounces back, but Emma never bounced back. It took a few months, like, honestly. And all that. It's like, there's a lot of questions on why they weren't helping. I figured that too. It's like, they made a good point. And they talked about Emma and her control issues and all that. They talked about the gonorrhea thing. And they actually researched on the air that you can't spread gonorrhea like by kissing somebody and all that. But the students basically take the gonorrhea talk from the nurse as something bad. And they basically assumed Emma had gonorrhea, and they basically assumed that Emma basically, is a terrible person, and they distance themselves from her and all of that. And that makes Emma a little more angry at herself. And, and they talked about how Emma was weaponizing her trauma to get out of trouble because she went to the ravine the second time with Jay, and then she got caught. Like, how could Emma pull that off? Emma could never have pulled that off. Snake knows that too. I mean, why the heck? Okay, you walk at 2 in the morning. No big deal. But the fact of the matter is, her clothes is like, why would you wear that out walking? You could be hurt at 2 in the morning. So there could be somebody preying on you. All that. Like, honestly, they should have just said, Emma, that's not going to work on us. The sawback doesn't work on us because the evidence was like, how did they bypass it and just said, okay, well, we'll talk in the morning. Something's fishy. So anyway, Emma had her problems and tricked Spike and Snake to roll out the scent and lost her self-image. And basically, they played over the air the clip about the social disease. So basically, yeah, it was amazing. And Jay basically says that I thought you had virtue. That's why I loved you. I wanted to go after you. And Emma says, I don't. I'm not that person you think I am. And basically, by that, it snapped Emma out of her funk. Emma realized that she's doing stuff wrong, and basically she needs help. And she probably gets help off screen with dealing with the Rick situation. Because that's basically how she talked to Spike and Snake at the end of the episode. Secret Part 2, basically saying that after Rick and all that, I just lost control and I thought I needed to be perfect for you. And Snake tells Spike that there's something going around at the school. And Emma, if you're worried, you shouldn't be. I have to be. And all that. Because Emma realized that, she's not who she appears to be. And basically, she was just acting out of depression and trauma and all that. She just couldn't be the Emma that everyone wanted her to be. And she wasn't. Like when I'll explain the next video, which is my perception on things. It's basically, Emma had things different. All that. So anyway, I think I've talked long enough about this situation. So anyway, yeah. The social disease, I give a good mark. Although they should have done more with the aftermaths of certain characters like JT and Liberty, the administration, and Alex even. But I guess they were making key points on Sean, Jimmy, Spinner, and Emma. I applaud them for that. But, they could have done more. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Thanks for watching. And part 4 is coming up soon.